Most people believe medieval winters were unbearable, that people lived in freezing homes, surviving only by sitting next to fire all day. But here is the truth. Almost no one tells you. Many medieval homes stayed warm through the night, using less fire than a modern house uses in 1 hour. No central heating, no electricity, no insulation foam, yet the warmth stayed. Meanwhile, modern homes with all our technology lose heat constantly and demand more and more energy just to feel comfortable. This is not a story about the past being better. This is a story about forgotten intelligence. Because medieval builders understood something simple that we no longer practice. They didn't try to make heat. They made sure it didn't escape. And once you see how they did it, you will never look at modern houses the same way again. Medieval walls were thermal engines, not just barriers. Modern houses are built to stop the cold from coming in. That sounds smart, but it creates a hidden problem. They don't actually hold warmth very well. Medieval homes worked in a completely different way. Instead of just blocking cold air, they were designed to soak up heat and keep it. Their walls were not thin. They were thick, heavy, and solid, made from stone, clay, and lime. These materials are slow to heat up, but once they warm, they stay warm for a very long time. During the day, those walls quietly collected heat from many small sources. Sunlight touching the stone, warmth from cooking food, body heat from people moving around the room, and sometimes a short fire burning for only a while. Nothing felt dramatic or sudden, but hour by hour, the walls absorbed that warmth deep inside. When night came and the fire was gone, the room did not suddenly turn cold. The walls slowly gave the heat back, little by little, like a warm stone that stays hot long after you remove it from the fire. This made the temperature inside feel steady and calm, not hot for a moment and freezing the next, just quietly warm. Modern insulation works very differently. It mostly holds warm air in place, but air escapes easily through gaps, windows, and ceilings. When the heater turns off, the warmth disappears quickly. Medieval walls didn't rely on air to stay warm. The walls themselves became the warmth. That is why a small fire could heat a room for many hours. And that is why medieval homes stayed warm without burning fuel all day. They didn't chase heat. They stored it. And that single idea is one of the biggest reasons their homes worked so well in winter. Fire was used to charge the house, not heat the air. In medieval homes, fire was never meant to burn all day and all night. People did not sit feeding wood into flames just to keep the air warm. They understood something very important that most modern homes forget. Warm air does not stay in one place for long. It rises, moves, escapes, and disappears through cracks, roofs, and openings. Chasing warm air is a losing battle. Instead, medieval people used fire in a calm and thoughtful way. They used it to warm the house itself, not the air inside it. When a fire was lit, it was usually done at the right time of day, often in the evening or after long cooking. The goal was to let the heat move into the walls, the floor, the ceiling beams, and even heavy furniture. These solid parts of the home absorbed heat slowly and deeply. Once the stone, clay, and wood were warmed, the fire no longer needed to burn strongly. The house itself had already taken in the heat. When the flames died down, the warmth did not disappear. It stayed inside the structure and was released back into the room little by little for many hours. This made the space feel warm even when no fire was burning. Modern heating systems work in the opposite way. They push hot air into a room and try to keep the air warm all the time. The moment the system stops, the warmth begins to fade. The house depends on constant fuel, constant power, and constant effort just to stay comfortable. Medieval homes did not depend on constant fire. They depended on preparation. A short period of heat at the right moment was enough to warm the entire space for the rest of the night. Fire was treated like charging a battery rather than running a machine. Once the charge was complete, the house continued to give warmth on its own. This is why medieval homes could stay warm with very little fire. They were not heating the air again and again. They were teaching the building itself to hold warmth and slowly give it back when it was needed most. Smoke was allowed to give its heat before leaving. In many medieval homes, smoke was not treated as something that had to disappear as fast as possible. People today think smoke staying inside a house means bad design, but in medieval times, it was often a careful choice. They understood that smoke carries heat, and if it leaves too quickly, that heat is wasted. When a fire burned in the hearth, the hot smoke rose slowly through the room instead of being pulled out right away. As it moved upward, it touched wooden beams, stone walls, and the ceiling. All of these surfaces absorbed the heat from the smoke before it finally escaped through a small opening or chimney. By the time the smoke left the house, much of its warmth had already been transferred into the structure. This made a big difference during cold nights. The roof beams and upper walls that were warmed by smoke acted like hidden heat stores. Long after the fire went out, those surfaces continued to release warmth back into the room below. The heat gently moved downward, helping the space stay warm through the night without needing more firewood. Modern homes are built to remove smoke and heat as quickly as possible. Chimneys and vents pull hot air straight outside, often taking valuable warmth with it. This means more fuel is needed to keep the house comfortable. Medieval homes did not rush heat out the door. They allowed it to do its work first. Smoke was not just a byproduct of fire, it was part of the heating process. Every bit of warmth was used before being lost. This slow movement of heat made the home feel steady and protected. Instead of sudden warmth followed by cold, the room stayed gently warm for hours. It was not perfect air quality by modern standards, but it was extremely effective at keeping people warm with very little fire. Medieval builders may not have known the science behind it, but they understood the result. Heat that stays longer works harder, and smoke was one of the ways they made sure no warmth was wasted. Heat was concentrated where life happened. Medieval homes were not designed to heat empty space. They were designed to keep people warm where they actually lived, worked, ate, and slept. This may sound simple, but it is one of the biggest reasons they used so little fire. Rooms were small and purposeful. Ceilings were kept low, not for beauty, but because warm air rises. When the ceiling is low, the warmth stays closer to people instead of floating far above their heads. Heat did not get lost in tall, empty space. Daily life happened in one main room. Cooking, eating, working, resting, and often sleeping all took place in the same area. Because everyone gathered in one space, warmth from fire, bodies, and movement stayed together instead of being spread thin across many rooms. Modern houses do the opposite. Heat is pushed into hallways, spare rooms, large open areas, and high ceilings where no one is sitting. The warmth is diluted and disappears quickly, forcing heating systems to work harder and longer. Medieval people did not try to make every corner of the house warm. They accepted that some spaces would stay cool and focused on protecting the main living area. Doors, curtains, and wooden panels were used to close off unused sections so heat could not escape. This made the home feel warmer even with less fire. The same amount of heat, when kept in a smaller space, feels stronger and lasts longer. Medieval builders understood this without formulas or machines. They built homes that respected how heat moves and where people actually live. By keeping life close together and space under control, medieval homes made warmth feel natural and constant. Heat was not wasted on emptiness. It stayed exactly where it was needed most. Floors and earth were part of the heating system. In medieval homes, the floor was not just something to walk on. It was an active part of keeping the house warm. Most floors were made from stone, packed earth, or thick clay, and these materials behaved very differently from modern flooring. During the day, heat from the fire, cooking, sunlight, and warm air slowly moved into the floor. Stone and earth do not heat up quickly, but once they absorb warmth, they hold on to it for a long time. This made the floor act like a quiet heat store beneath people's feet. When night came and the fire died down, the warmth did not disappear. The floor slowly released that stored heat back into the room. Instead of cold air rising from below, gentle warmth moved upward, helping the whole space feel more comfortable through the night. The ground beneath the house also played a role. Earth stays at a more stable temperature than the air. It does not freeze quickly or heat up suddenly. Medieval homes were built close to the ground, sometimes partially into it, allowing the natural steadiness of the earth to protect the home from extreme cold. Modern houses are usually lifted away from the ground and sealed off with thin layers and empty space. Cold air moves freely underneath, pulling heat away from the floor. This is why modern floors often feel cold even when the room is heated. Medieval people avoided this problem by staying connected to the earth. Their floors worked with natural temperature balance instead of fighting it. Warmth stayed low in the room where people sat, slept, and worked. This connection between floor, earth, and warmth helped medieval homes stay comfortable with very little fire. Heat was stored below, released slowly, and supported by the steady temperature of the ground itself. The house did not lose warmth quickly because the earth helped hold it in place. Nightfall triggered a heat defense routine. When the sun began to set, medieval homes changed their behavior completely. People understood that night was the most dangerous time for warmth. Once darkness arrived, temperatures dropped quickly, and any heat left unprotected would disappear before morning. As evening came, windows were sealed, wooden shutters were closed tightly, and thick cloth or animal hide was often hung over them to block cold air. Doors were covered with heavy curtains that stopped drafts from sneaking inside. Every opening that could leak warmth was carefully guarded. Unused rooms were closed off. There was no reason to keep heat flowing into spaces where no one was sleeping or working. By sealing these areas, warmth stayed concentrated in the main living space instead of spreading out and fading away. The fire was managed differently too. Instead of burning large flames late into the night, people allowed the house to hold the heat it had already stored. Warm walls, floors, and beams carried the job forward while everyone slept. Bedding played a role as well. Thick blankets, straw mattresses, and layered coverings trapped body heat, reducing the need for more fire. The goal was not to keep feeding the flames, but to protect every bit of warmth that already existed. Modern homes rarely change their behavior at night. Glass stays exposed, doors leak air, and heating systems work harder while people sleep. Medieval homes treated night like a test of discipline. Warmth was defended carefully, quietly, and intentionally until morning. This routine, repeated every evening, made a huge difference. By respecting how fast heat disappears after sunset, medieval people stayed warm with very little effort and very little fuel. Living beings were a heat source, not an afterthought. In medieval homes, warmth did not come only from fire and walls. Living beings themselves were an important source of heat, and this was understood naturally, not as a strange idea. Every human body gives off warmth, and when people stay close together, that warmth builds up instead of fading away. Families did not spread out across many rooms. They gathered, worked, ate, and often slept in the same space. This kept body heat concentrated in one area, making the room feel warmer without using extra firewood. The warmth from people moving, talking, and resting added to the overall comfort of the home. Animals were also part of this system. In many medieval houses, animals were kept beneath living spaces or in rooms directly connected to the home. Their body heat rose naturally into the rooms above. This was not done for comfort or kindness alone. It was a practical way to use natural warmth that was already there. Modern homes separate humans from animals completely and isolate people into private rooms. This spreads warmth thin and forces heating systems to work harder. Medieval homes kept life close together, allowing natural heat to stay where it was useful. This approach required no fuel and no effort. It worked quietly all day and all night. Warmth was created simply by living, breathing, and sharing space. The home captured that heat instead of letting it disappear. By treating living presence as part of the heating system, medieval homes stayed warmer than expected. Heat was not something they chased. It was something they allowed to build naturally through closeness and shared life. Homes were positioned like instruments, not objects. Medieval homes were not placed randomly on the land. Their position was chosen with great care because people understood that nature could either help keep a home warm or make it lose heat quickly. Long before modern tools existed, builders paid close attention to the path of the sun, the direction of the wind, and the shape of the land. Homes were often turned toward the winter sun, so that sunlight could reach the walls and windows during the coldest months. Even weak sunlight helped warm stone and wood throughout the day, adding to the heat stored inside the house. At the same time, walls facing cold winds were built thicker and with fewer openings to reduce heat loss. Villages were also arranged in ways that offered protection. Homes were grouped close together so they could shield each other from strong winds. Hills, trees, and natural slopes were used as barriers against cold air. Instead of standing alone and exposed, houses became part of a sheltered environment. Modern buildings are often placed without considering wind, sun, or natural protection. When cold air hits all sides of a house, heat escapes faster, and machines must work harder to replace it. Medieval homes avoided this problem by working with nature instead of fighting it. By choosing the right position from the beginning, medieval builders reduced the need for fire before anyone even stepped inside. The house itself was already prepared to stay warm. Nature was not an enemy. It was part of the design, quietly helping the home hold on to heat through the coldest days of winter. What we forgot was not technology. We forgot understanding. Medieval homes were not warm because people were stronger or because life was harder. They were warm because builders respected how heat actually behaves. They knew that warmth is something you protect, not something you endlessly create. They did not rely on constant fire, endless fuel, or machines that never rest. They designed homes that held onto heat, shared it slowly, and used nature instead of fighting it. Every wall, floor, beam, and habit worked together toward the same goal. Today, we burn more energy than any people in history, yet we still feel cold inside our own homes. We build faster, lighter, and taller, then try to fix the problem with power and cost. Medieval builders solved the problem before the house was even finished. The real lesson is not about going backward in time. It is about remembering what works. When we stop chasing warmth and start protecting it, comfort becomes quiet, stable, and natural again. Sometimes progress is not learning something new. Sometimes it is recovering wisdom we never should have lost.